Hello and welcome to our second to last installment of our English Greyhound Derby podcast here on Matchbook.com. Of course, don't forget to press like, subscribe, make sure you check out Matchbook Insights. And before we get to PL to talk about all the Derby action, just remind you of that sign-in bonus. Pod 50 is the code you will need. Bet £50 and you get £50 back as free bets. Well worth your while signing up, and who knows, you could be backing a couple of winners on Saturday night at Toaster after myself and PL have dissected and looked ahead to the Star Sports TRC English Greyhound Derby. PL, pleasure as always. The Derby was very much alive before Saturday night, but things really did take another step forward. Just incredible racing. It's been a Derby that has really delivered, and it just keeps going from strength to strength, getting better and better each week.
Yeah, and some of the finishes were absolutely superb. You had three-way drives as well as sort of head bobbers between a couple of them. It was sensational, yeah. And again, the creams rising to the top, a few little tricky trap draws, and it's as a kind of a punter, if you like, it's difficult to sort of work out the conundrum sometimes. But as you say, we do this on the Matchbook exchange, and there's two ways of scaring a cat. Sometimes you can back or you can lay, and that's something that I think we'll probably get into as well when we look into the depths of the semis. But of course, we can have a look back at what happened in the quarters first.
Absolutely, and we'll stick to the usual sort of routine. We'll look back at the quarters. We'll then look at the anti-post book, and then straight into the semi-finals on Saturday night. And as you've already alluded to, some tricky draws to get your teeth stuck into. I know you're the man as regards what the movement's going to be, a trap rising into the opening corner, and that will be very much in play on Saturday night. But let's look back at these four semi-finals. It all started with cheap sandwiches. I don't mind the name. Funny enough, I never really put too much stock into them. I quite like it, cheap sandwiches. It's easy to commentate on. It rhymes off the tongue. It probably doesn't describe what he is, because he's a thoroughbred. Like, he's an absolute Rolls Royce. He didn't take a flyer. Droopy's Aladdin actually took a flyer, but he just didn't really get going. In contrast, Cheap Sandwiches flashed up the outside, got to the front. Solomio, which we really couldn't see sort of on the camera really, because he's sort of in behind Droopy's Aladdin, he charged up the inside and went second, but Droopy's Bookham ran on very strongly to grab second in the finish. But there was no stopping Cheap Sandwiches. It was a length and a quarter, but it could have been lengths more. Like, it felt like a very comfortable success.
Yeah, well, a fair bit happened, I think, and as you kind of alluded to, that when you look at the Gone to the Dogs coverage, which is it's a great innovation this year. I know we've been treated in the past to Sky coverage, but I think this is equally, if not better, actually, in some occasions. But you get the chance to look at the head-ons, and also that drone footage as well was really good. And I went back and looked again. You see it at the time. I watched a couple of replays in the week, and then come the morning, I sometimes try and go back, and I get a little bit too nerdy sometimes, and that probably overanalyze it too much. But it's good to see, because you're right. When the traps opened, Droopers Aladdin probably broke just in front. But the first thing they did, they just brushed shoulders, Solomio and Droopers Aladdin. And I keep saying to you, when you get deeper into the competition, that's when it makes a lot of difference, because Cheap Sandwiches, he broke okay, but he showed his early pace, and he got to the front. I was really impressed with Solomio in the fact that I think he causes his own problems to a certain extent, because he just wants to take that step to the right a little bit. But the other thing I was impressed with him, when he did brush into Droopy's Aladdin, he corrected himself. So where we've seen him from in the earlier rounds, probably run against, I say, not quite as hot opposition, he's broke from 3, which I think is a good trap for him, and he's actually caught in the hair and moving off. And you made a really salient point in something to do, obviously, with his breeding to a certain extent. Obviously, Peter had Kildare as well, and they've got that sort of habit of edging off out the second turn. And I said to you as well before, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but he looked like that in Tralee as well, where he was just having that trouble holding his line. But I thought it was really interesting once he got passed into second, because I think, Droopy Stadium was a bit unlucky, really. He got the meat in the sandwich. one thing that I think was really important, I don't know whether you noticed this or not. I thought Cheap Sandwiches came across into the into the turn a little bit earlier than he normally does.
Yeah, he seemed to have
And
more daylight than he probably has experienced in recent times. But did he just get the slightest eclipse on the heels?
I think so. But what I'm saying to you is, I think he was already going across a little bit more than I thought he would. I thought he's one of those that will stay fairly wide, but I just thought he came in a bit sooner than he normally did or normally would, looking at what you've seen of him. And you're right. And then Droopers Aladdin kind of just caught his back legs a little bit, which kind of, again, exaggerates it. But Solomio, I thought for a young greyhound, and he's just turned 2 now, isn't he? So he's actually not a pup anymore because he's a June whelp. But I thought he handled himself really well, Ian. Then when he came out the second bend, because Cheap Sandwiches is straighten up, and we know Cheap Sandwiches isn't really wide. It's almost like he went try to go around the outside of him to look for the hair. And I think, well, again, when you're doing that, you're not running your fastest lines. And then he came back again and tried to straighten up. And I thought he showed really good pace, Solomio, again. He's a dog that, because of his age, I guess, and Peter Cronin, as I said, has got so many dogs through to an English Derby final. He's kind of progressing in really in the same mould, in that same mould as Kildare. I just thought he ran really well. So there were a lot of positives to take out. Of course, then Droopy's Bookham, as we thought, with that good draw from track 1, when we thought Solomia would leave gaps, he ran on strongly in the closing stages. But again, it's just from my point of view, and I think from your point of view as well. Cheap Sandwiches was a big anti-post bet for me, and obviously I just need him to do it right in the semis now to qualify.
Yeah, big run by Cheap Sandwiches. Droopy's Bookham in second. We had alluded to the fact that he had a great draw. Solomio does, just as you keep saying, just edges off that little bit every now and again. When he gets an opportunity, he does. He did straighten up when he brushed shoulders with Droopy's Aladdin. But Droopy's Bookham got a lovely clean in run behind, and he ran hard. He really did run hard. He's only beaten a length and quarter. A big run by him. Obviously, he's going to need luck going forward, just given his style of running. I don't mean luck in terms of he just needs to be left alone, basically, because he has the pace to get through. But yeah, big run by Cheap Sandwiches, big run by Solomio, and then Droopy's Bookham coming late and fast to split the pair. Big run. Onto the second, he's Churchfield Sid. He's just a remarkable greyhound. Listen, the truth is he was 101 to lead in this contest. Absolutely certain to lead in this contest, just given the makeup of the race. There wasn't an abundance of early speed. But given that fact, we all knew that Da was most likely going to lead those on his inside as well and turn close. And that's exactly what happened. You spoke already about the Gone to the Dogs footage. Da closed up pretty comfortably into the third bend, and just it was a case of when. And you see that drone footage and you realize that Churchfield said there was so much talk about, how will he handle 4? He normally wears the stripes. Well, he should have been wearing red around the third and fourth bend because he never moved an inch off the rail. And Da was left there going, like it's like being stuck in the inside lane, and you can't get out. There's a dog there, or he just couldn't get out, and he had to wait to a point where I think he was almost frustrated when he got to the final bend that he swung. He made an exaggerated maneuver. He went wider than he normally would just to make sure that he had room to race, and it sort of cost him further momentum, but he got going. I've described it twice or 3 times as being a comfortable short head. I felt he was always getting there, and he did get there, and he just went away into the escape. I was mightily impressed by it. The engine is most clearly there. If Churchfield Sid had been in the race, I think he'd have done 28.50. Like that's the sort of run I think it was. He's literally just waiting around the third and fourth bends. And you know how long those third and fourth bends seem to be, especially if you have one that's trying to get by. And he had to wait the whole time. He just sat in the slipstream of Churchfield Sid, just waited off the last bend, swing wide, and off he went. And like the 28.81 doesn't look great compared to the other 2 heat winners, 28.67 and 28.66. But I genuinely think he'd have done it with his mouth open. No problem to him if the gap had been there.
Yeah, and I think again, out of the second bend, because Churchfield Sid was perfect out of 4. Actually, he was perfect. He was really good out of 4, and I'd been singing his praises, as you had as well. In that he's got early pace to die for. You're right. In his quarterfinal, there wasn't masses of early anyway, so he looked like he had that luxury. But I spoke to Billy Evans actually just before the draw for the semis in the restaurant, and he just said he's a joy to own. But he's always that clockwork breaker anyway. So he's always got that. He never seems to make a mistake at the start, and he's got that beautiful turn of early pace. And I did say to you as well, is that it's just delighted. Oh, where's he going to meet him? He doesn't want to be running up his backside at the third. And I think again, I watched it this morning. Delighted came out the second bend because I think he stayed fairly straight from 3 as well. And he was another one. I think he was almost looking for it down the back straight. So where Churchfield City is in sort of lane 3.5 to 4 down the back, Delighted was actually looking for it, and he edged wide. And coming out the second bend, then he had to sort of gather himself. I think probably from the halfway into the third turn, I think he was 2 lengths behind at the second bend. He probably made about a half a length on Churchfield Sid, and he was about a length and a half behind at the third turn. And that, as you say, now it's that, well, where are we going to go? Because Churchfield Sid will definitely come across on the turns. I don't necessarily agree he was tight on the rails, and I think that's the conundrum, because it's almost like
he was tight enough that there wasn't a gap to get through.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there was a little bit of a glimmer. Oh, will I, for Deladidar? And he certainly thought about it, and then he kind of hopped over the back. And I think even Billy thought he might just have caught Churchfield's hind legs slightly. And I did notice as well on the run-in, Churchfield Sid just slings his leg out that little bit where he's getting that tired. He's probably just tightening up somewhat because he's not the strongest of stayers, and that's his probably natural gait. But he was almost lane 2.5 on the run-in, where he's probably getting tired. He's probably rolling for a bit of comfort on the rails, maybe. But Delighted as you say, then switched. But he just had that surge near the line, and as you say, the comfortable short. You always felt, well, surely he'll get him, but it wasn't until halfway up the run-in that you thought, yeah, he will get him.
It was the type of one where you could have got yourself in trouble as a commentator. And here comes the laddie data. Oh, hasn't got there.
Oh, he did.
You know, the short head, but he did get there.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Back in third was no better feeling. 28-1, which I didn't think was a great price. I wouldn't have backed him at twice it, but it's a great story. He's running absolutely out of his skin.
It is, yeah. It is really good, yeah, for Esther Driver to get a dog into the to the semis. And again, a bit like, you know, I kind of didn't mention about Ben Collins. Ben Collins has been there, I think, every round, and he takes his family with him as well, which is nice. And him and Michael and Tom own Droopy's booking. But yeah, it was so it's nice. It's nice for those greyhounds at big prices to keep qualifying, and you think, if you know, the dream lives on. So it's great. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, I backed Droopy's booking to win an Irish Laurels after, I think, his third career start. Like I've been a fan for quite some time.
I know you have, yeah.
Went a bit off the boil, probably went a bit stale just in the company he was keeping in Ireland, wasn't getting the run. And he seems reinvigorated. You know, Tom, I get the impression with Tom, he doesn't leave a stone unturned. And I think he has this fella singing a sweet tune. As I said, if he gets a bit of luck in terms of just avoiding bad traffic is what I mean, rather than needing others to trip over themselves, because there's no question he's the pace and the power to go further. But it's great to see him running so well for them. We're getting on to the third of the quarterfinals, and this was our pal Bombay Pat doing what Bombay Pat does. Missed the kick, charged up into the corner, but it was too late, because by that point Dynamic Force had already gone to the corner. I saw Ian Cunningham talking on the Gone to the Dogs, and they spoke about how they ran him last year in an A2 competition rather than running him in the Laurels at Curraheen Park, and he won it. It was a €10,000 competition, the Bart Leahy Memorial, and he was brilliant through it. And Hennessy's brilliant with this type of dog. He probably knew himself that he wasn't ready for a Laurels, but this is the type of competition where he'll get experience and learn. And he probably had gone a little bit over the top, or was a bit tired by the time he ran the Irish Derby. Now, he showed plenty in the Irish Derby, but Hennessy, you just got the impression he wasn't at all disappointed with how he ran in the Derby, with a view to, this is the English Derby dog now. We're bringing this dog to England. He'll be a right greyhound by then. And they've done work. They've given him time. And here he is. And he's backed up his career best effort in the previous round with another career best effort in this occasion. This was brilliant by Dynamic Force. And I know his tail is very off-putting as he's coming off the last bend. Like,
He's got the crooked tail,
dog in the eye. It's poking out that much. But he is a fast greyhound, and this was him at his very, very best. Bombay Pat ran his normal race when he doesn't lead. He shows all sorts of foot, but he's not going to get to the leader. And back in third, Prince Nassim ran hard to deny the others. But Dynamic Force is the story here. He's a greyhound that Paul Hennessy seems to be getting a very sweet tune out of.
Yeah, he's a nice one. We had the brother Portsmouth Pedro for the Pompey Ventures Syndicate, and he was like an A1 dog. But so of course we were following this fellow when the Kennedys had him, and he kind of looked a sprinty type. But I think since Paul's got him, he's got that confidence in him that he does stay for whatever reason, and he's been proved to be correct because he's running hard through the line. He's got early and he stays this dog. And I have to say, I met the owners on Saturday evening. Lovely, lovely people. And I'll tell you how I met them. I was coming to the draw in the restaurant. Down from the commentary box, I had my notes in a little folder, a clipboard. I had Billy's bag because Billy was doing the draw and he'd left it up. He gives me a walkie-talkie. It was so hot, I had my hoodie in my hand. I said, "Oh, I'm full of things." I went to go through the restaurant drawer, and I dropped the clipboard, and all my papers went everywhere. And Ian and Ashleen were there, and they said, "We'll pick that up." And they picked lovely, lovely people, so caring, lovely. And then when we got chatting afterwards, as the track draw was going on, and I told them that we had the brother, and it was really good. And then I ended up sitting down with Mike Davis, and their table was next. They're lovely people, and I met Brendan as well. So fair play to him. And I did text Paul Hennessy to say I bumped into him and lovely people. But as a greyhound, and we're looking at greyhounds, this dog has got a really good chance in the Derby, and there's no dangers about that. No dangers.
There doesn't seem to be a weakness at present. Maybe trapping was a bit of an issue last year.
Maybe
he's cleaned up. He's definitely tidied up in his trapping. Like a 398 on from a 4 seconds. Like he did 417, 407, 413 in his previous 3 starts. So, he's now down around the 4 second mark, and that's good enough. It really is good enough. Big run by him. Bombay Pat. Like, what do you say about him? Like, he's just so fast. He's so much ability. But just those first 5 strides are a big issue.
Yeah, and I think he showed as much early pace as Dynamic Force. It was just he broke a length and a half behind him, and then he's got to try and get past him. He does an awful lot of running, and again, you've got a dog in your eye line, and at Toaster, I think it is better to be on the front end. Obviously, at most places that's a given, but even with Bombay Pat, basically he's a front runner, but he's a front runner that doesn't start very well. So that's his Achilles heel. But for speed and for pace, he's as good as Dynamic Force. No doubt, he's a 2850 dog. There's no danger to that. But he's not a consistent breaker. Whereas now we're saying Dynamic Force has learned how to start a Toaster. Bombay Pat still hasn't.
If he was your dog, you'd be praying for one fast start from him, and you'd nearly sacrifice it next week with a view to hope that he qualify in third and that he produces in the final.
100%. I totally agree with
that. Can happen, frustrating to a point. Prince Nassim back in third. He's just running so hard. Kim Bergen is absolutely taking every stride with this dog. She absolutely loves him, and Maxine doing a great job with him. He's still there. He's running hard. He was probably just a yard behind in Ireland, but he's just running at the top of his game and is producing. Now we get to the last of the 4 heats, and this was the one that all the chat was about. Sadly, we didn't get to see a head on about this one, as I was really interested to see what happened between Keefel Maverick and Bocco's Diamond after a couple of strides. We know what happened with Slick Sentinel. He popped out. He did what he needed to do. He got to the front. He was headed, but he came back again. He's a dogged just determined greyhound. Keith Alsop at the Star Sports preview told me, he said, this dog is ready for the Derby. We were taking our time with him, and by God, he's right. You know, this dog is absolutely hunting it into the ground, and he's running at the peak of his powers. He flashed out. He got there. He's headed. And he comes back again to win. That shows a greyhound that wants to win. Drewby's Plunge ran on really strongly to take second spot. I thought he was a certain winner off the last bend. I'm surprised he didn't get there. But Slick Sentinel is strong himself, wins by a short head. But the real talk about this race is obviously about Bocco's Diamond. He again missed the kick. It's hard to tell. The overhead shot does show you he's level. He's not level. He's in trap 5. He's going straight. And then after a couple of strides, and it's really hard to see it, Kiefer Maverick definitely takes a step right. Now, Bocco's Diamond goes from being in trap 5 to being in trap 7, about 5 yards later. And I think they did bump. And I think it was maybe an overcorrection by Bocco's Diamond, but he definitely took a couple of steps to his right where he didn't need to and normally wouldn't. Now, the pace he showed, I'm not sure there's any greyhound that could have raced up to Slick Sentinel and gone past him as quick as he did to go, nearly 2 lengths in front. But then, again, the wheels come off by the third bend. Graham Box is of the belief that he'll definitely strengthen up. Graham has left him a touch heavy, and he's hoping to take a bit of weight off him. But it is a concern. I suppose the fact of the matter is that his rivals aren't trying to keep up with him. They don't have to work as hard to keep up with him. And as a result, they're sort of fresher going into that third bend than they would normally be. Because if this was, let's say, Shelburne Park form from last year, he's getting to the front after 5 strides. And he is setting an all merciful gallop to the third bend. And in an attempt to keep up, his rivals are not finding as much home as they would. That's not happening in Toaster, bar that night he did the 28.51, because he's not getting loose early. Now, we know he can trap. We know he has the early speed. Trap 6 the next night, as far as I'm concerned, will not be an issue. I think it'll work in his favor, but I would love to see him get loose. Do I think there was a slight overreaction making him 3-1? Absolutely. And let's just say the Bocco's Diamond is now paying for a weekend for me if he does get loose the next 2 nights. I think if he does sub 4 seconds the next 2 nights, he will win the Derby. That's my opinion. Let's talk about the race itself, Pio. How did you see it?
Well, you are quite correct in what you're saying, again, it is a little bit of what really did happen. And with a head on, you probably would have a better opinion. I get that. My take on it is, and I actually looking at my notes here from the quarterfinal, I've got Slick Sentinel lane 5. Actually, I think he's more 4.5, and he took a flyer. Now, Keith Alsop, as you say, you've just said I wasn't at the preview night, but Keith had a lot of confidence in him, and Keith wants him in 6, and yet every time he's in 6, he seems to move across. But I think it's for trapping purposes. But on this occasion, I think it was actually a negative for Bocco's Diamond, because Bocco's Diamond hasn't been trapping consistently either. And I do agree with you. I think there was a slight bump between Bocco's Diamond and Keyfield Maverick. But I think what's happened is because Slick Sentinel has crashed out, he's moved across. Bocco's has missed it. Now he's got to make a decision. He hasn't really got a lot of room. He probably had a little slight bump at some stage with Keyfield Maverick. Now he's decided to go outside to make his challenge. And as you say, when he starts to run in a straight line, and that was wide, by the way, he's moving. And we all know that he's probably got best early in this Derby. Another salient point you made was he's got awesome 2 to 3 as well. And that's exactly what happened in this race, where because Slick Sentinel is steering almost sort of lane 4-ish, 4 and a bit, he's come around the outside and then blown a hole in him into the third turn. Now, it takes a lot out of a dog. And again, I do talk to my missus quite a lot, because she's not a complete idiot when she's looking at a greyhound. So, and she said the same. It's difficult for a dog to miss his break, then show all that pace, work hard to get to the front, and actually then run his best race, because he's had to just get these slight knocks. That is when you're an elite athlete, you need everything to go in your favor. When you're running at the top of your game, you need it all to go right. and it hasn't all been going right. It went right once, didn't it, for Bocco's Diamond? But he's just not had the rub of the green. So kind of going back where I think Bocco's Diamond will run if you put him in 4, 5, or 6, he'll run in a straight line. So I get all that about Holland was kind of a bit. He was a bit offended by people saying he wants middle. I'm the trainer and that, and he wants him out of consistent box. And I get all that.
His issue is the gaps are narrower in the UK traps.
Yes, correct. Yeah, they are. But we're seeing Ian some really strange trapdoors because of the seeding, and as I say, I had that conversation with JK, and I kind of mellowed to it. You have to deal with what you get, and we don't put them in lanes, and there are anomalies all the time, and that's what probably makes greyhound racing and this Derby so special, because we're getting a lot of conundrums, and we're getting a lot of conundrums with really quick dogs, really fast grounds, and we analyse their traits and their attributes and their kind of weaknesses, I guess, as well. Bocco's Diamond, when he won the Irish Derby, there was a commentator at Shelbourne Park that night said he's the best he's ever seen, and I would tend to agree with you. And when you say something like that, I would take note. And he is a special dog, but all of a sudden he's gone to Toaster and his sandals are getting wet. He's not walking on water anymore. He's not the second coming because he's not quite taken to Toaster. But I agree with you. That doesn't mean to say he can't get it right and do something very similar to what he did in Shelbourne Park.
Has anyone offered a price to win both the final and the semi-finals?
No, I doubt it. But I don't know about you, but I don't really 100% put my hand on my heart and say Toaster is his gaff. I don't think so. I mean, we had Roxo Magic. I actually went and looked at her form yesterday as well, for whatever reason. I was looking at Patrick Guilford's breeding with Definite Opinion. Of course, she's by Definite Opinion. She broke 5 track records and broke them at quirky tracks as well. And I didn't realise that. One of them was Kinsley. So she broke the track record at Crayford, Kinsley, Wimbledon, Hove. But the TV trophy in her era was run at Toaster. And believe it or not, they used to run the TV trophy at different tracks every year. And in her era, they ran it at Toaster twice. And she just didn't like Toaster. We just couldn't get a run out of her at Toaster. And there are certain dogs that will run better at certain tracks. It's a bit like maybe the horse derby. Not every horse is going to act at Epsom.
My argument isn't that he doesn't run Toaster. My argument is that he's not running the Toaster traps. I think that's the issue. I think it's down to 2 strides. Like we saw in his trial, even his one success, like 28.51, is the second fastest time of the Derby. Like he handled the place perfectly that night, but that's when he got loose. And it's just the traps, the different mechanism. He's just not coming away. Even in Shelbourne, yes, he wasn't flying starter. He did make 2 or 3 flying starts through that Derby campaign, but he's never even looked like making that in Toaster. The 393 he did was, as we talked about at the time, didn't come off a flying start. It just was the fact that he was loose. He came way on terms, and there was nothing to worry him in the first 5 strides. And if you leave him alone in those first 5 strides, there's nothing that can touch him. But he's got to come better, and that's the issue. Now we'll see. Like if Graham if he hasn't really gone to the well with him just yet, and he's about to, well, we could see a different Greyhound. I hope that happens. I really do hope that happens. We have to mention Slick Sentinel. He's just running so well again. He was 14-1 the other night. It was an unbelievable price when you think about it. Drewby's again, ran so strongly in second spot. And again, there's not a bad Greyhound gone through in this guy. Yes, like No Better Feeling was a huge price, but he's there on merit on how he ran the other evening. And we're left with 12 unbelievably fast Greyhounds. It's a really top-notch Greyhound Derby, and one that you can really savour and look forward to. I've already told you I backed Bocco's Diamond after racing on Saturday night at 3-1, and I should have. I don't know why I didn't. I'm in a position where I could text the 2 Grahams and find out how he is and whatnot. And before I went again yesterday, I texted Graham Box and see how's all. Dog great order, hoping for the best. So here we are. This is what we're left with, 3.9. You know, I thought he'd be 3.9 after the first round. Never mind, as we're going into the semi-finals. I thought at this stage he'd nearly be even money. But you know, things haven't gone to plan, as you said. Cheap Sandwiches next in around the 7-2 mark, 4.5. The Laddie Da, 5.9, so effectively just under 5-1. Solomio 10-1. Dynamic Force is the sort of the mover over the last couple of weeks. Bombay Pat, have we seen English? Oh, there's an English trained greyhound. There we are. PL. Churchfield Sid is the shortest price UK runner at 19.5 with Droopy's Plunge basically on the same mark. It's remarkable. Slick Sentinel about 25-1. We're going further down to Droopy's Bookham, same price. Prince Nassim is a big price and no better feeling, the outsider of the party. Listen, it has a distinct feeling to it. It has a strong shape to it. Am I right in saying the 6 Irish greyhounds are the top 6 in the market? Yeah, they are. The top six Irish are the top 6 in the market. That doesn't mean to be 6 Irish finalists. We're going to have to get into the semi-finals. But firstly, looking at those prices, PL, anything that sort of jumps out at you?
Probably, you know, if you're looking for something, I actually think probably Dynamic Force. You might be able to get a bit bigger than that as well. So yeah, probably. But when you look at Bombay Pat's got a big price now, hasn't he? Bombay Pat has got a big price.
The thing about Bombay Pat is we're looking at his clocks here. His clocks and toaster. 409, 411. There was a 4-second run. That was the night he did the 28.53. And then 409, 407. You know, you can get away with that early. You can't get away with that at this stage in the competition.
No, correct. No. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Whereas you look at something like, look at Churchfield Sid. Look at 405 first round. 396, 397, 394. Like, where do you think Churchfield Sid's going to be going into the corner next night? You know, it ain't languishing in fourth. Like, he's going to be right up there, banging contention, if not in front. And I suppose at this stage in the Derby, that's where you're looking.
It is, and actually, I think you can get 25s with the fixed odds, and someone's trying to bet him at 23 there, so which is 22-1. So someone fancies him, and I don't blame him. I had a little nibble him in as well. Actually, on the Matchbook Exchange, I tried to get match. I think I got a bit of 30, but so yeah. So there's probably a bit of confidence behind Churchill Sid. I happen to think he's got a great chance in the first semi-final because of his clockwork breaking, his ability to fly to the corner. He's really just got to get rid of Slick Sentinel if Bombay Pat gets his the same sort of draw start that he did last time out. So yeah, maybe if you're looking at the anti-post market, maybe Churchfield Sid could be a big price. He got to the final last year, and possibly Dynamic Force.
Yeah, it's worth remembering Churchfield Sid did a 401 in the final last year, was leading basically to the second bend, at which point the Laddie Da went by him. But it is worth remembering that he has been there. He's led in the Derby final. So yeah, I know he's a year older, but everything
he isn't any slower. Believe me, he's no slower.
As ever. Like he's like he's a June 21. He's just gone 4 years of age, but he's not running like a veteran, no question about it. Let's get into these two semi-finals, PL, because they are both intriguing. The first heat, we're going to take a look at them. 1 Solomio, 2 the Laddie Da, 3 Droopy's Bookham, 4 Slick Sentinel, 5 Bombay Pat, and 6 Churchfield Sid. Where are you at?
I think looking at the early prices when they first came out, and I was toying. I didn't really know what to do will I have a bet? Won't I have a bet? You know, I said to you that I was big on Laddie Da, but they put him in miles shorter than what I've got him. It's a tricky enough draw for him. I think there's a possibility he can qualify. But if you're looking at who's going to lead, I think the natural early speed has got to be Solomio and Churchfield Sid, and they met in the third round as well. And that I think that piece of form has turned out to be a real strong piece of form. Solomio out of 3, Churchfield Sid was in 6, and Dynamic Force was in 5. And they all showed real good speed. And Churchfield Sid, because he's in with those sort of dogs, he actually couldn't lead. He couldn't get across. And he definitely moves. He's definitely going in the ways. He's definitely moving into almost lane 4. Slick Sentinel is running extremely well. Now, he keeps starting. As I say, I did speak to Keith, his owner, and he said he prefers him out of 6 for him to trap. Now, if he traps out of 4, I think he'll stay in a straight line out of 4. And if Churchfield Sid can trap, I think he's probably got better. Well, I know he's got better early than Slick Sentinel, and he could lead on the outside. He could. But again, it's the key to what Bombay Pat does at the traps. And you say more times he's going to miss it than hit it. So then you're looking on the inside, and Solo Mio, who showed as good a pace to Churchfield Sid to the bend when they met in the 3rd round. But do you expect Solo Mio to get the same break as in trap 1 on Saturday night as he did when they met out of trap 3? I would say maybe not.
You look through his sectionals, 410, 409, and last week at 409, and the one night that he did pop out, the night he was against Churchfield Sid, he did the 395. Now, we know he can do the 395, but he hasn't looked the most natural starter. Like, he doesn't look like a dog that's guaranteed to pop out every night. Now, he does pace up really strongly. Like, he has really top-class early speed. And I suppose that's the issue. He's not going to be able to make up enough ground from the line to the corner if he doesn't come away on terms.
No, and he is improving. He's a young dog, and he's definitely improving. But as I said to you, I don't think he wants trap 1. I don't think that's going to help him improve. Put it that way. So that's the little negative, because I just think he's going into the first bed at the wrong angle, and because Churchfield Sid is doing what he's doing and he's coming across, that's a negative. Solomio's going to be going in a bit of a diagonal line. As I say, I was impressed with him out of 2. He moved off. He had the bump with the Droopy's dog, and then he kind of straightened back up again. So I get that. And Delardidar here, what's going to happen there? Are they going to brush shoulders? I don't think Delardidar will be worrying too much about that. He's more battled hardened anyway. It's probably what Droopy's Bookham's going to do at the start. How quick will he start? Can he get to Delardidar at the start? Because I actually went back and watched him out of trap. His last run from trap 3 was on the 1st of March in Shelburne Park, and you called it that night, and you said straight away he moved inwards. But he only moved inwards into 2. Originally, I wrote down he wants 1.
Yeah.
But I think he's clever enough not to go right the way across. But there'll definitely be a squeeze effect for Delardidar. As I say, I think he'll stay fairly straight. If not, he'll probably edge off a little bit himself. But so these draws in both semi-finals are real conundrums. They're not givens by any imagination, and I'm a bit worried for Delardidar how he gets the run, if you get what I mean. But like you are gonna now tell me, he'll find a way.
Yeah, I do think he will find a way.
Yeah, so do I.
He's either hoping for Solomio to break on terms or Solomio to come a good length and a half out behind him, and both are potential. There's potential for both. But if Delardidar finds a way to turn sort of close, he has to hold Droopy's Bookham into the corner. You have to believe that there's a chance of scrimmaging on the outside. Like if Slick Sentinel comes away, Bombay Pat, Churchfield Sid, there's a lot of greyhounds trying to run in for ground there. Like, and even if Bombay Pat doesn't come out with them, he'd definitely be charging up in behind them. He could just arrive in the mix there, and things can happen on the outside. I know in such a competitive competition, such a competitive contest, that with this makeup in particular, I think I'd prefer to be on the inside than the outside. And that's why I'd sort of probably favor one of the inside duo at the prices. I don't think I'd be on Delardidar.
Definitely not.
No, he's 13 to 8 best. Now, I think you might get close to 2 to 1 on the night.
More than that. I think you go bigger than that. I think you go bigger than that.
7 to 2 Solomio for me. Like you're basically 7 to 2 that he starts. He starts on terms. Like after 5 strides, if he's on terms, 7 to 2 is huge. Like it's colossal.
When you say starts,
just even break level, like maybe Churchfield Sid could be a little bit in front or whatever, Slick Sentinel perhaps. But if Solomio like does a 4 seconds, shall we say, a 4-second type start, I think he'd be bang there on the inside of the opening corner.
But he might be bang, Ian. He might be bang there, but He ain't back running in Churchville Sid. If Churchville Sid leads, he won't be back running. Solomeo's a front runner. Solomeo is a front runner. He's a nice dog. If he was in trap 3 here, he'd be my selection.
Yeah,
and I'd be strong.
If he does,
I think trap 1's a negative for him. I think
if he does 4 seconds, if he does a 4-second sectional, I don't think Churchill Sid will have a full length of him. I think he'll enter the back straight in front if he does 4 seconds.
But I think Churchill Sid will outstart him.
Yeah.
From these draws. But you're right. You're quite right. If you base your bets on level breaks, then Churchville Sid might struggle to clear Solomeo. But it's what happens when you get, as I keep saying, when you get these little knocks, and he got the little knock against Droopy's Aladdin, then Cheap Sandwiches gone. Churchville Sid could be the same scenario, gone.
Yeah.
And Deladidar hasn't got the same makeup as he did the last week when he turned a clean second behind him and beat him. Churchville Sid here could be gone. And I'm convincing myself now, after talking to you, that I should have took the 5-1. I know I should have took the 5-1. That's gone now, but you still might get a bit of 4. You still might get the 9-2 on Matchbook come the off. And I think he is my selection here at the prices. Yeah.
To be honest, it's nearly a watching brief for me. It's very close to being just a watching brief, because
I do agree because of the draws. Yeah. Scenarios.
If you told me Bombay Pat would be 5-1 in a race of this nature,
I'm the same.
You know what I mean?
I don't make him that price. I don't make him that price
unless he traps. There's no way, and you go skinned waiting for him to trap. It's fascinating content. And I can see your argument big time. Just again, we only minutes ago I said, isn't it unbelievable how well he's running a June 21 whelp and whatnot. I think Deladidar could cut him from 3 lengths further back and beat him than he did the other night, because I think he was held up by 3 or 4 lengths around the bottom 2 bends. When he's absolutely ready to just let loose, he just finds him in his way. Whereas if he'd been 4 lengths down at the 3rd bend, he may nearly have run the last bend even cleaner, because he'd been arriving with a rush and he probably still won. But that's by the by. It's that race is gone now. We're into a different race, and
it's a totally different race.
We're dealing with such little nuances that, if you're worried about 2 spots to start, maybe it's just time to watch and brief, or maybe play prices, because something in this race will go a ludicrous price. Something will go a ludicrous price.
Yeah, Droopy's Brooklyn will probably go a ridiculous price, and if they do crowd up, he could pick up the pieces. He could, but how he gets a run, I don't know. And how he gets in front of Deladidar, and again, I don't think he's back running Deladidar. That's the thing. But I said to the missus, I don't know whether I should be betting here, and you've hit the nail on the head. And in the end, I went, I probably should watch on. But in my heart of hearts, come the night, I can see a big brindle dog going wallop, getting to the front, they're all doing that in behind, and he going clear, and Billy Evans screaming him home. What a dog he is! We're in the final, lads. That's what I think. I have had a tiny bet on him. I've got to tell you, at 9-2, a tiny bet on him, because I couldn't get a lot on. Yeah. And it was embarrassingly tiny. But I might have a bit more at 4 now.
Yeah, you're £1.36. Right, we'll move on to the second heat and the second semi-final. And what a race it is! And you're going to have a 50-1 chance here. No better feeling it'd be 50-1 in trap 1. Prince Nassim was currently 25-1. He'll be around that price. Droopy's Plunge is currently 15-2, and he could be 8-1, 9-1, 10-1 on the night. Dynamic Force, Cheap Sandwiches, and Bocco's Diamond are going to dominate the betting, with the bottom 2 really dominating the betting. And it is the race where everyone's, you got the few chirping, and there are a few chirping on social media now. Oh, it's embarrassing what you're saying about this and about that, and Bocco's Diamond isn't the dog you thought he was. He's every bit the dog I thought he was. But the problem is, we've discussed the issues at hand. The fact of the matter is, when they met the last time, they were reversed 5 and 6. Bocco's Diamond was the inside of Cheap Sandwiches, and the word was, if they'd been reversed, it would have been the other way around. Well, they are reversed. They've met 3 times, and Bocco's Diamonds found a way to beat him 3 times, including in the Derby final. I think that'll be the case again, because I think he'll can't help but trap a little bit better. He'll have room on the outside, and I think he'll go whoosh into that opening corner, go to the front. I think we'll see a different Greyhound. That's my view on the race. I think Cheap Sandwiches and Dynamic Force are both worthy adversaries. I think the bottom two might be just fractionally sharper than Dynamic Force for pure early speed, but he's going up very strongly at present. The sectionals the last 2 nights would suggest he's better than Cheap Sandwiches and Bocco's Diamond into the corner, but that doesn't tell a tale. I think Bocco's Diamond at 11-8 is a knocking bet. I think the 3-1 is a knocking bet, although I'd probably be more likely to take the 11-8 if I'd known that was going to be available, because you don't know what trap draw he's going to get in the final. And there are quite a few wide seas left, as we well know.
Yeah.
But Bocco's Diamond for me at 11-8, I can't see him being that price in the night.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that's bigger than I make him, I must admit. But it's again conundrum. It's a massive conundrum race because I make reference to Joe Cornelia. You mentioned that to me. I saw him on Saturday night as well when I was talking to the connections of Dynamic Force, and he said at the time when they met, and I thought they were drawn perfectly well, Bocco's Diamond in 5 and Cheap Sandwich in 6. He said if they reversed the draw, do you think that Bocco's would have cleared Cheap Sandwiches? And I think Danny Jackson said no, and I think Joe was kind of intimating that himself. But you're right. We haven't seen Bocco's Diamond go wallop yet. And my worry is that if he misses it, the one thing that Cheap Sandwiches will do is move off run up. He was in lane 6 the last day. He was in 5, but that was with daylight. I'm still convinced with these classier dogs that when there isn't daylight, they won't exaggerate their lines as much. So I tend to agree with you with Bocco's Diamond. I ain't too sure whether that's going to worry him, because if they break level, I think he'll go. I'll ask you a question then. How much early pace, if they break level, how much early in hand has Bocco's Diamond got in hand of Cheap Sandwiches?
If they break level,
yeah,
Bocco's Diamond hits the first corner with daylight, and he's 3 clear into the back.
Well, he'll need to do it. That's what I'm trying to say to you. He'll need to do it with daylight because he wants to cut the bend more than Cheap Sandwiches. Having said that, I've just told you that last week Cheap Sandwiches went across a bit sooner than he normally had done. But yeah, that's the key to it. I agree with you, Ian, in that a lot of these people keep saying, "Oh, Bocco's Diamond, oh, you're mad." I can understand it from what you're watching, and Toaster is probably the leveler. He's not. I don't think he's operating at Toaster as good as he was in Shelbourne Park. I think Shelbourne Park's more his track. But I can see a scenario where, as I said to you when I spoke to Lorraine yesterday, when he goes clean and he runs in that straight line, there isn't anything to touch him, nothing to touch him, because he has got different early speed. And I know Cheap Sandwiches is a lovely dog, and I know he was the first one in the book. Well, him and Bocco's actually, they were the first 2 bets I had. But it's amazing how they've, as you said, again, quite correctly, they'll migrate to the top of the market. We knew Bocco's was favourite anyway, but Cheap Sandwiches quickly went second favourite. And so it proves to be. And it is a great matchup again. So that is the conundrum. Again, I said to you, if you're drawing them, I'd have Bocco's in 5 and Cheap Sandwiches in 6. But I have to say, when you look at it, traits, and again, I've mentioned this in the earlier podcast, Dynamic Force wants to move off initially. He wants to move off. And so, again, there's a scenario where he could play a part because he is improving. I happen to think that he is a runner. He is a runner here. I think Dynamic Force is a runner. And I actually said to Lorraine as well, I said, if Dynamic Force broke about a length behind Bocco's Diamond out the second bench, do you think he'd pick him up? She went, no chance. She said that. So she's got the same mindset as you in that Bocco's Diamond will be gone. So, but you've got to get him to break to do the gone bit.
We've only seen him once once at Toaster getting loose into the opening corner.
Yeah.
28.51. He just burnt holes in the rivals that night. Like, he is a monster down the back straight. And that's what sort of people aren't sort of appreciating to a point, that he's not getting that chance to really dominate at the head of affairs, because he is breaking dogs' hearts when he does get loose, because they're trying to keep up with him. They're taking themselves out of their comfort zone, whereas Bocco's Diamond, that is his comfort zone. Just getting out front and bowling along, just setting astronomical sectionals and figures. And still have to stay with him, because I've seen him in the flesh, PL, and I think anyone that really has seen him in the flesh at his pomp just couldn't oppose him.
I think to a certain extent, though, it's just that in Shelbourne he was consistent. In Toaster, he's not been consistent at the start. And do you know as well, the one key thing to this is that you're right. I've not got a problem with him being in trap 6 here. And again, I just don't want him to miss it, because the danger is he misses it, then Cheap Sandwiches he might do that a little bit on him and come out to him, which again, it's not ideal. I don't really want that to happen. I want them to break level and see the best dog go to the bend. But if Cheap Sandwiches does go wallop and takes Bocco's ground, I can see Dynamic Force being in the race here, because I don't think Dynamic Force is too far behind Cheap Sandwiches with a break and could try and get inside him. So I can see different scenarios. I've got the mindset listening to you, and I did listen to the pod you did with JK, that you just think Bocco's will be gone because you've got so much faith in his superior early pace. I happen to think that his two main rivals are actually drawn immediately inside him, and their tendency is to move off. That's what I think about this race, because I think the inside pair have got nightmare draws, because Plunge wants red. Plunge will go in start. I mean, again, Patrick's done brilliant with Droopy's Plunge. I keep saying to you, he's not been getting kind draws. He's got even worse draw now. When it really matters, he's got a worse draw.
Who's more likely to get through of the Litter brothers, Plunge or Bookham?
Probably Plunge, because I think Plunge might be able to bully No Better Feeling than Prince Nassim a little bit on the inside, and he's strong, isn't he? He's stronger than they are, put it that way. But he's still got to get away past them, and he's not ideally drawn to do that. Whereas I think Bookham, if he gets behind Delardidar, then he's going to struggle, and one of those outside dogs are gone. So I happen to think actually that the three wide runners could go through here.
Yeah. No mention of 6 hours. No mention of 6 hours behind us, PL. No.
Look, if it is, it is. It doesn't. You know that. It's never worried me. You can't be waving flags at me. I'm not like that. I just want to see the best dogs.
You just want winners.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's all I want.
Two fascinating semi-finals in the Star Sports TRC English Greyhound Derby. We could talk about it for all day and all night. And when it comes down to it, the first heat is an absolute conundrum. The second heat, I just believe, his blind faith at this stage, Bocco's Diamond will take off. I think you'll see him strip a little bit fitter, a little bit lighter. And I have a feeling that you will be watching three Irish Greyhounds going first, second, and third into the corner, led by Bocco's Diamond, who will go on to land the spoils and confirm his superiority over the field. That's my thinking. And at 11-8, I would recommend do not lay. Whatever you do, do not lay, because that could become a very expensive experience after about 10 strides, when he's already gone to the front and he's stretching on. He's 5 clear at the third bend, and he's on his way to a track record breaking display. Anyway, we can only dream. A wonderful derby, a wonderful conclusion is expected. We are back next week for the final time, PL. We will be talking about the final of the Star Sports TRC English Greyhound Derby from Toaster. It has really delivered more than any English derby in my sort of memory has delivered. And I've got some great memories of the competition going back to the earlier days in Wimbledon. But the fact of the matter is, this year's derby has really captured the imagination. The crowds are coming, the atmosphere is there, and the racing has certainly played its role.
It has, yeah. I can't argue with that. It's been terrific, and I think you need a superstar. Bocco's Diamond is a superstar, and a lot of people said in any other era, Cheap Sandwiches would be a superstar. You know,
he is a superstar. You can have two superstars in one era.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Cram and Co. and all that sort of thing. Yeah, you're right. You can. And it's just it makes the Derby special. But there's a lot of those. As I say, I don't think Dynamic Force is too far behind him. I don't think Solo Mio's too far behind him. And certainly Churchville Sid has given a bit of romance again to the Derby for the second year running, and also Da-La-Di-Da. So you're right. It's deep. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it's mad to think we don't talk enough about Da-La-Di-Da. He's bidding to become a dual winner of the English Greyhound Derby, and like, touch wood, a bit of luck, he's there in the final. It's a wonderful stake, as we've said. That's it from myself and PL. Don't forget, folks, POD50 is the code if you want to sign up with Matchbook Betting Exchange. Bet £50, get £50 back in free bets. Of course, check out Matchbook Insights. Like and subscribe on all social media channels. You don't want to miss out on anything. Great coverage of greyhound racing, of horse racing, soccer, and very soon to be back is the NFL. But that's it from us, myself and PL. My thanks to the master. We will see you 7 days from now.